Now you know what we're doing today, and I don't want to waste your time, so let's get right to it. Now the first thing I'm doing is taking a measurement for the width of the tire. So this is roughly 8.5 inches. Now for the length, grab a piece of wood, place it at the rear of the tire, another piece of wood at the front. It doesn't have to be perfect, just to give you a general idea. This is 13 inches, and I'll go a little bit wider. I don't want to make it too thin, these stands, so I'll make my length cuts at 14 inches. Now let me show you the materials that you'll need. Very simply, this is 2x4 lumber. I purchased the lumber from Lowe's, and each board was a touch under 8 feet. 92 5/8 of an inch was the length of each board. The cost also inexpensive, less than $2.50 per board. Now you can do the math and figure out how much lumber you need, and I'll show you the math technique in a second. In my case, I just purchased 8 boards right off the bat. It's a small car. This is a Honda S2000, so the wheels are not very big, and that turned out to be a pretty good number. Really, in totality, I needed 7 boards by the time I was done cutting everything up. So you need the lumber. The fasteners, these are 2.5 inch construction fasteners, and you need 2.5 inches, okay? 2 inches is not enough. You want 2.5 to really get in there. Cordless drill and a cordless impact driver. If you don't know what an impact driver is, I'll show you the difference. Big time saver. To cut the wood, you can use a miter, table, circular saw. If you do not have a saw, you can rent a miter saw. They're very inexpensive. I think they're like 40 bucks for 4 hours at Home Depot. So you can simply purchase the lumber, rent the saw, cut up your lumber, your pieces, return the saw, and you're up and running. Now let me quickly show you the math technique in case you want to calculate everything before you go to the hardware store. 2 things you need to keep in mind. Number 1, the height of your ceiling. In my case, it's a home garage, so the height is 8 feet. Number 2 is the height of your floor jack. How high can it raise the vehicle? Now in my case, I had this vehicle on jack stands just yesterday, and the height was 7 inches. The tire off the ground was 7 inches. So I knew I need to be in that ballpark. Now 2x4, if you're not familiar regarding lumber, the thickness of 2x4s are 1.5 inches. So I can quickly calculate, if I want to be roughly 9 inches, I'll need 6 boards in height, right? So 1.5 is the thickness. So we have 3, 6, 9. So this is 9 inches off the ground. So that's perfect. Now the other thing I'll need to know is the width and the length, and we measured that already. So the width of the tire is 8.5, and the length is 14. And if you calculate everything, you'll find out that you need, in my case, I'll need 6 14-inch boards and 6 8.5-inch boards. So just to run the math very quickly, 6 8.5-inch boards, that's 51 inches, and 6 14-inch boards, 84 inches. So I need 135 inches per wheel, okay? I have 4 wheels, so my total is 540 inches. So I take 540 inches. Each board was 92 5/8 of an inch in length, and that's 5.8 boards. Now, if you recall, I said earlier I used 7 boards, and that's because sometimes your boards are not that perfect. So in this case, there's a crack here, another crack here. I'm not going to use this board. So it's discarded, and I need extra wood. So a good rule of thumb, give yourself an extra 10% once you do that measurement. Now what I'm doing here is simply placing the board down. I'm using a tape measure at first because I need something that I can extend pretty close to 8 feet, and marking my cuts. So every 14 inches and every 8.5 inches. Make my cuts, keep everything nice and neat, and then back on the bench or wherever you're doing the work, we can start to assemble the boards. Now the first wood stand I'm going to assemble quite slowly so you can see how you do this. Now don't jump ahead. In other words, you may start drilling pilot holes for all of the wood pieces. You do not want to do that because you have to alternate your drill patterns, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. So to start off, we have the 2 width pieces. So this is the width of the tire, that's face down, and then the length goes on top. Okay? Now you want to place 2 fasteners per corner, so 8 altogether here. Now a good place is halfway across the board. So this width is 3.5 inches. Half would be 1 3/4 of an inch. Having a square certainly helps. All of the tools that I'm using pretty much purchased off Amazon, except for the lumber, of course, and I will have links in the description box below if you need anything. Okay, so this is smack in the middle. And then what I want to set up are 2 fasteners right here again. So I know the width of this board is the same. It's 3.5. So I don't want to be too close to the edge. In other words, I don't want the screw or the fastener to be here or be here, because then it will splinter and crack the wood. You don't want to do that. So simply, I'm just marking 3/4 of an inch in and 3/4 of an inch here. So in my case, it's 3/4 of an inch, and backwards it would be 2 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so these are where I want to make my drill points. Okay, right here and right here. So I have my markings, and you don't want to start driving in the fasteners because you can splint and crack the wood. So you want to drill some pilot holes. Now this is, let me just take a look what size we have here. This is 1/8 of an inch regarding the drill. Let me grab my safety glasses. Okay, so we're going to do 8 drills. Okay, now we're ready to drive in the first set of fasteners. Okay. Now in my case, one thing, if you are planning ahead here, the drill bit I'm using is not long enough to go through both boards. Okay, ideally I would want that, it's just not long enough. So if you are doing that, make sure you have a long enough drill bit. So this is using a drill. Okay, it doesn't really sit completely flush. Now let me show you the impact.
Or discover.com/match. Discover something harder. The Home Depot can help.
Okay, so here's the really important part. You don't want to start pre-drilling all of the lumber. The reason behind that is when you set the next one up, you don't want to strike the old fasteners. If you set everything with the same drill marks, you're going to hit the fasteners below it. So you need to set them up perpendicular to the old one, and then switch it and switch it. So in other words, for the next piece that goes here, I'm going to find my halfway mark. So again, that's 1 3/4 of an inch. Okay. And then, as you can see, I want to be vertical, you could say. Vertical because the old ones are horizontal. So 3/4 of an inch here. Don't forget the width is 3.5. So we want to be 2 3/4. Okay, so 1/4 of an inch in and a 2 3/4 of an inch in. Make your marks. 1, 2. If I go too fast, just replay it a couple times, you'll get it. And you can clearly see when I drill this and place in the fasteners, they're essentially going here now. So they're not going to strike the old ones. That's the key thing, okay? So let me mark up this next set and we'll just continue. So I have my marks, and now I drill my pilot holes. And at this point you're probably getting the scope of it. Again, now I need to make sure the fasteners are perpendicular to the old ones. So place up your board, and this one I'll do rather quickly. Halfway, 1 3/4, 3/4 in, 2 3/4. Okay, those are my marks. 1/4 in, 2 3/4, and then, as you can see, we're perpendicular to the old ones. So now let's jack up the vehicle and see how they fit. The other cool thing is you can fit jack stands on your wood cribs, so it works very, very well. So the front ones are all set here. It fits in there quite nicely. So now we'll build the rear and we'll be all done. So there we go, everyone. All 4 corners are safely off the ground. And now we can safely do some work. And that's what we'll do in the next episode. Oil, transmission, diff fluid, do some maintenance work, get this car up and running very, very soon. If you want to see additional photos, I will have them on Instagram. Any questions, comments, please leave it below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.